and welcome to The Author's Voice, the official podcast of Professional Publishing Finland. Professional Publishing is based in Helsinki and publishes nonfiction books on management, education, and sustainability. At the Author's Voice podcast, we hear from the author about their thoughts and insights on their book. My name is Mary Boss, and I am here today with Anne Raudaskoski. She's a strategist and author, and her business is called Regenerous Unlimited. We previously spoke with Anne as well about the book Circular Strategies for Success. We will discuss that more today. This book, it lays out a framework to help businesses transform into circularity. Thank you for joining me again today. How are you doing?
I'm really good. It's really nice to be back.
Yeah, good. So this next part of your book, it zooms in from what we talked about in the first discussion was a lot about the worldview, and now we're zooming in more on the company levels. You mentioned the importance of staying ahead of the game and planning ahead in a business's transition to circularity, and how important it is to plan ahead. So, because if the business will wait too long, then they end up reacting and they kind of miss opportunities. And in your book, you had an interesting example about Kodak with these missed opportunities. Could you tell us about that story?
Yes. I think it's a very, in a way, it's a bit sad story, obviously, and tragic story, but it also teaches you a lot. So I think many people know kind of the Kodak moment, which refers to these unforgettable moments.
Yeah.
But actually, there's also another story, or kind of the meaning of Kodak moment, which basically refers to how the entire company went down. So Kodak is probably known to most listeners, but it was a film photography company, a large one, a corporation. Yeah. And then they kind of saw that this industry is changing, that the digital photography can disrupt the entire sector. And what was really interesting in their case, that they actually did really thorough foresight work. Mm-hmm. They did a lot of market research studies. So they basically had all the market intelligence showing them that this is how the market environment will change. And what did they do? Nothing. They didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And what's even more interesting is that it was actually an engineer working at Kodak who invented the first digital camera. And he was basically told that, yes, that's very interesting, but, just forget about it. And they had a 10-year time frame to do that shift, basically transition from that film photography to digital photography, or at least diversifying their business.
Yeah.
And they didn't do it. And then the company ceased to exist.
Yeah.
So now when we think about the analogy with circular economy, we know that the market environment is changing. Mm-hmm. It's been changing for quite a few years already. I mean, we've had the legislation, we had the Circular Economy Action Plan, and now we have, I always call it like a train of legislation, because there's a constant flow of new initiatives. And my recommendation to company leaders would be that they review the list of those regulations and initiatives, and see it as a business opportunity, and ask themselves that, okay, what's the impact for our business, and how could we strategically prepare ourselves for these changes?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of, in addition to the kind of other type of foresight work. I mean, large corporations have their processes in kind of scanning the horizon, but then smaller businesses can well utilize this list and knowledge that is out there
Yeah.
So now is kind of the momentum, and now is the time to really start the transition journey if you haven't started already.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of preparing yourself strategically. Maybe another analogy could be that if your house is already on fire, you don't think about sort of, getting everything with you. You just grab the essential.
Yeah, whatever's nearby and
exactly.
easy to...
So this is the same, that do you want to wait until you just need to be compliant, or do you want to be kind of leading the market and be one of the winners of the game?
Yeah, that's a really good point, to use those future guidelines as a sort of a way to plan ahead and see what's coming, so you can really make sure you meet those steps in time. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And if we think about, for example, R&D processes, it takes time to start kind of implementing circularity into them. Not always, but in many cases, if we think about massive production lines.
Yeah.
So you need to make those decisions quite a few years ahead of the changes. So I'd say that these are kind of the last minutes to start that transition journey.
Okay. Yeah. So in your book, you talk about one planet business logic, and as an idea of a company doing more with less. And you discuss a lot about this term decoupling, and how that should be a core business goal for companies to work towards circularity. Can you explain those concepts to us and how that works in real life?
Yes. So the concept of decoupling is actually at the heart of circular economy. So whatever we talk about, if we talk about circular business models or circular product design strategies, it always goes back to the one concept, that is decoupling. And in layman's terms, it's about doing more with less. That's the kind of shortest description.
Yeah.
So basically what decoupling means is that when a company wants to grow in a sustainable way, in a linear economy, it means that it always requires more natural resources, virgin raw materials, and it means also generating more emissions.
Okay.
So I always describe this operating model of a linear economy with two arrows, which are both pointing in the same direction upwards. So the arrow of growth and well-being, and the arrow of use of natural resources and virgin raw materials.
Yes.
And they point in the same direction. And that's the operating model of a linear economy. Now, when we talk about circular economy and decoupling, the idea is, with those two arrows, that you can still create sustainable growth and well-being, while the other arrow should start pointing downwards.
Mm-hmm.
So you decouple your growth from the use of natural resources and from the use of virgin raw materials, while emitting less emissions.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of core concept. No, there are this kind of absolute and relative decoupling, but actually just asking in your management team that, okay, what's our company's strategy to decoupling, and thinking about the entire value chain.
Yeah.
Are we in some parts of the value chain, are we already sort of executing the idea of decoupling? And if not, it means that we're still operating in a totally linear way.
Yeah.
And where could we start? What would be the kind of sweet spots for starting and kind of testing out that, okay, how can we start in that transition, or how can we start decoupling? It can be, for example, the changing your virgin raw materials into recycled ones, or it can be using less, let's say, for example, water and energy in your production process. it can be extending the life cycle of your product and maybe remanufacturing, refurbishing it, reutilizing it. So there are kind of multiple opportunities for each company for decoupling.
Okay.
And I think the idea of like, how can we do more with less?
Yeah.
It's the kind of very simple way of kind of starting that conversation and seeing where the kind of low-hanging fruits are.
Yeah. And isn't it true that this also helps to minimize risk within the business?
So yes, in addition, although I like to talk about business opportunities, it is also very much about risk management.
Yeah.
And we know, and this goes back to the one planet business logic, that we have a finite planet. So that means that there cannot be infinite flow of virgin raw materials in a finite planet.
Exactly.
And that's also about securing that, okay, how are we managing if we want our company to grow? How do we manage our virgin raw materials, for example? And how can we reutilize what already exists? And the European Union, as an example, has the Critical Raw Materials Act, and they also working on resource plan. So, and this is all about securing those critical raw materials that already are in the products, and how can we circulate them rather than being totally reliant on importers outside the European Union.
Okay. Yeah. So this whole system, this sustainability and circularity is it's still a new concept. And so there needs to be a lot of innovation, and there's a lot of room for innovation within these ideas. And you go on to talk a lot about this mindset, the innovation mindset, and how important it is to use that in all stages of the value chain. I really love how you use theory to explain the ideas in your book, and then you back it up with practical stories from businesses. The framework you use in your book is the 10 types of innovation framework. Could you talk a little bit about that and how that can be used in the circularity transition, and maybe give us some examples of that?
Yes, I'd love to do that. I'll just show you the visualization.
Yeah.
Which is here. So basically, the 10 types of innovation framework was a tool and methodology by Larry Keeley that was already developed in the 1980s. Yeah. So it's not a new tool, and I've kind of tweaked it a bit to include some circularity aspects in the tool.
Yes.
But basically, what was Larry's kind of statement was that a lot of companies focus on just innovating around their product. But that can be quite easy to copy. So his idea was that you should look for innovation opportunities across your value chain. So he developed this visualization. So basically there are like 3 headings: configuration, offering, and experience. Okay. And this configuration refers to business environment, internal processes, profit model, and things like that.
Yeah.
And then the offering is about the product and product service offering. And then experience is all about customer interface, that, you know, how do we interact with the customer, what kind of brand we're building, what kind of experiences we can and want to develop to our customers.
Okay.
So in my book, I give examples of all of these, but especially the recommendation is that maybe companies should look for innovation opportunities, especially in configuration stages and experience stages. So I will just highlight a few examples of those 2.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So in configuration, there's one of the focus areas is profit model. And I interviewed over 20 companies and experts for my book. Mm-hmm. And one of them was Elmeri, which is a Finnish metal recovery technology company. So they've created this very unique piece of technology through which companies can actually save even kind of the smallest quantities of critical raw materials in wastewater. So all those kind of sort of like small streams that are easy to discard, but they actually develop this patented technology. And when you start adding up those small streams, they become actually, bigger streams, and they contain a lot of those critical raw materials. Mm-hmm. So they have this technology, but instead of selling a piece of machinery to their customer, what they did was actually created a service model. So basically, it's a service for their customers. First, they go in, they test that their technology works. So it's all kind of risk-free for customers. Yeah. It's free of charge. So they just want to make sure that everything works fine. And then also the subscription fee is based on the quantity that you are able to recover those valuable metals. So it varies from customer to customer, and it's really fair, and it's actually quite intelligent, because if you only recover small amounts, it wouldn't make sense to pay like a flat fee, like a same subscription fee for everybody.
Right. Really good idea.
Yeah. So that's a kind of really nice example of how to utilize that technology, but not focus on technology, but actually focus on your customer. Yeah. That how can we serve them best? And of course, when your operations grow, the Elmery, the company, takes care of their technology. So it's like a turnkey solution for you.
Yeah.
Another one would be kind of in terms of process, which is another focus area under the configuration title, is process. And there's an example of Inrego company. So Inrego's core business is to collect all the used old laptops and mobile phones and fix them and resell them or rent or lease them as new. Mm-hmm. And over the years, they've developed the state-of-the-art technology for repairing those laptops. So, and that's what makes they kind of, obviously, it impacts on the profit model of the business. Yeah. And it also makes it really unique. So they can, in a very efficient way, they can erase all the data and fix the laptops. And that process obviously is something that is far more difficult to copy, and it has a lot of R&D behind it. Yeah. So that's another kind of example of how to create something really unique and innovate in different parts of the value chain. If we think about the experience part, I think there are a couple of really nice examples of that as well. So there's a cosmetics company from New Zealand called Emma Lewisam. Okay. And Emma Lewisam, who is the founder of the company, she wanted to create a luxury brand. And the cornerstones of that cosmetics brand are transparency, climate positivity, and circularity. Okay. So when you go to their website and read their story and read about their products, it's all about circularity, and they provide a lot of information on their strategy. Now, that's really unique for a luxury cosmetics brand, because they usually don't talk that much about the environment, let alone climate positivity or circularity. So I think that's kind of providing a lot of information to your customers is one really unique way of building your brand. And in addition, they've also created this beauty circle return, which basically means that you can return your packaging to the manufacturer, and they have set up a partnership with the specialized recycler. Now, if you think about all those cosmetics packaging and jars in your bathroom, they might have multiple layers and different materials to give you that feel of luxury.
Yeah.
But then the downside of that is that they are really difficult to recycle in kind of normal recycling streams.
Yeah.
But through that partnership, they are able to use those materials, and actually, according to what they calculated, is that they can bring down the emissions by 70%.
Wow. Okay.
Through this practice. And I think that those two are really nice ways of engaging with your customer and also building a brand.
Yeah, that's such a great idea to have the customer